Okay, Pauline Sana, you have really sat for today. I'll make mine very short, okay? Because a lot of the things have been discussed. I don't know, only one screen is working, okay? So, Uasin Gishu, as I said previously, Uasin Gishu, we are sitting on typically the best land in the world. But it is potential until it translates into prosperity. So I want you to remove your phone and Google the following two words. Two words. And those two words is creative destruction. Just Google creative destruction. Are we there? So what's the definition of creative destruction? The process where new technologies and innovations replace outdated ones, leading to economic growth and transformation. Tumeelewana? My message today is about creative destruction. Why am I choosing this theme? Is because there have been so many changes proposed. National government is moving at breakneck speed, county governments, but the mindset of the people are in the old mindset. But government has come up with a new constitution. There are so many policies being implemented, Vision 2030, Beta, everything is moving, okay? The PS here is laying fiber. Magdalene is here creating an Eldo hub. But does the farmer in the village understand what is going on? And that is our greatest challenge. We are not moving as quickly because Meditab Chito, Nimi village, Kutom Goalak. And that is what is creating that stress. Even these young people who are creating a lot of noise is because they are using the old mindset, which was you sit and you will be employed by just sitting. In other parts of the world, unajitetea and you move. If you look at the Chinese in 1984 reached that critical point of creative destruction where the old China had to be demolished and a new China came. And the leader then, Deng Xiaoping, told their people, this thing called communism is useless. Where's the cooler communism? And they told his people, being rich is good. People. Do you know what happened? China created a world record where it grew at 10% year on year for 20 out of poverty. But they had to destroy the old China. The old China, the Communist Party, they forgot all those things and told people, fanya biashara. They attracted now investments from all over the world. That is why they have designed processes which are making things very cheap to manufacture. When they designed those processes, all Americans removed manufacturing from America to China. So China is the world's workshop. And I'm sure some of you even go to China to import things. That is what we must do for Uasin Gishu and Kenya in general. I will give you some suggestions that we must grow at 10% for the next 25 years, by 2050. That is when we could declare Uasin Gishu developed country, a developed county. But it begins now, our lasama, Kewalbik. If you look at the next slide there, I did a projection. The population of Uasin Gishu County by 2100. Next slide. If you look at the population by 2100, the population of Uasin Gishu is estimated to be 6 million. Can you imagine 6 million people living in Uasin Gishu? If we are not careful, we will be a small Kisi. Nigipche Barenik Kotoik slice. We can't go that direction. Okay? So shortly, I want to, so in the next slide, my mention is we were the breadbasket of Kenya, especially wheat. We were number one in the 60s, the 70s, when the colonialists were here, the 80s partially, and then when the settlements began, and then we lost it. So who is number one in wheat now in the country? Narok. But Narok is having also the same problem. If you look at the way the population of Narok is increasing, they will lose that competitiveness completely. And so therefore, we cannot afford to do that. So if you look at the challenges, to me Uasin Gishu currently, one is land fragmentation. We must change our culture, mindset will be on how we manage land. And I will give you some suggestions. Okay? Mechanization is another problem because there are new technologies which have been invented in Asia over the last 30, 40 years that we needed to adopt in this part of the world. So we must now look at technologies, not of Europe or America, but the technologies of countries like Thailand, like Vietnam. These are new economies and they have modeled Western technology to fit them. We must now adopt those technologies and reinvent them for us to suit us. India has tried. And the reason and the result is India now is the fastest growing economy in the world. If you just look at the output of India, India has 1.4 billion people, the highest in the world now, but growing at 8%, the highest in the world. They have replaced the Chinese because they have adopted the Chinese methodology of modifying Western technology to fit. And now they can employ their people. So if you go to India now, there's construction everywhere, including even exporting labor. The highest number of people doing construction work in Dubai are Indians. So we need now to start thinking through. So we need to modify the way we do things here. Now, my recommended model is Israeli Kibbutz. Now, how many of you have been to Israel? Yes? How many of you actually went and stayed in a kibbutz? Okay? A kibbutz, Kogo quit. A larger one. Okay? Now, if you look at the next, there's a photograph, I put next slide. Yes. That is typical how a kibbutz looks like. Many of you got together and then they free the land for cultivation, for other activities. Okay? And so we must socially re-engineer our society. And I wanted to start with Wareng Powerhouse members. Matoega kwe chipche mbare ne kwe slice. It should be you collectively staying together and then freeing the land. Because the culture in the last 30, 40 years was, Kapchi, ngudit 40 acres, kepche jigjana, now gipchi jigjana, so we must now start rethink, because if we don't do it, by 2050 to 2100, Uasin Gishu will be a rural slum. Rich agricultural land, but a rural slum. And that is what we must avoid. So we must then look at the kibbutz. We must study, and that kibbutz model has worked in South Korea. Remember, Samsung was a textile company. Because of the way they work now as a kibbutz, in South Korea it's called a chaebol, chaebols. So if you Google chaebol, it's the same thing, where people come together and they grow a company. Now we must come together. If, for example, DL, you allow these people to invest all the shares in the new company, instead of now, Pandiatke, you now come, I give you 20% shares. People like me now will invest. And then now we create a kibbutz or a chaebol. And then now the company moves. Somebody like Magdalene here, she has created Eldo Hub, but she's short of capital. The capital is here, but every year, Otubakwe capital was in Gishu, Otupchiningwen, Pandiatke. Yet she needs capital to expand so that she creates employment. She's going to add this to expand Eldo Hub. Eldo Hub in Addis, Malaukyo, because we need now to think differently. So let us Google how a kibbutz works. Okay? Now, if you then look at the challenges, okay, so if you now go to the next slide, the next one, the previous one, settlement, no, not before culture, settlements, okay, so we have, I have some ideas then on how we are going to do it. Number one, through the county assembly. National government has done its job. Big constitution, now it is county. How a county prescribes for the people. My prescription, county assembly must pass a bill into law on the minimum subdivision in the county. County assembly, where are the MCS? Akwejo. Okay? It's going to be difficult. It's not easy. Because everybody will now say, I have rights over my land and I can do whatever I want. Okay? But remember, a title is a lease from the government. Kagon government a right over land for 99 years, it's a lease. And government can prescribe how that land is to be used. So, I'm challenging the county assembly of Uasin Gishu and our neighboring. They must prescribe, okay? But it doesn't matter. So, lasma ke prescribe settlement to save our land so that it can accommodate 6 million people without compromising agricultural production. Point number 2 is income generating activity. Next. Now, if you look at a kibbutz, because I've been there and I've lived for a week, I stayed in a kibbutz. That kibbutz I stayed in had a hotel. There was a 3-star hotel. There was a factory that was processing milk and exporting to Syria because it was near the Golan Heights. So there was a factory, there was a hotel, and those are run by the local people. And the investor was an American. They went and invited an American, but it was on a shared basis. So they had shares. The investor came, brought his money, but employed local people. So every kibbutz, we'll call in a name, Jalilu, what to call it, or whatever it is required, must have an income generating activity to employ people. Okay, so income generation activity. The third one is social amenities. The social amenities now must come together so that then it's defined, go to a stadium, go a social hall, whatever it is, the social amenities will keep people busy. Because one of the greatest challenge, nakabar bikyosai, kumayek. Kaya ngiti jita at 4 a.m. aw jengan mayek. Nakatangita at 4 a.m. aw in the factory, nabago quit. Sagete. Because how do you calculate GDP? What is the GDP in Uasin Gishu? What is GDP? GDP is output. So, jita nakakonget sa kumuna moja ako jengat jaga kumatinya output. So how can you increase the GDP of Uasin Gishu? You can't. So we must then have social amenities that keep people away from vices. Okay? Number 4, culture. Culture, the habits, next slide. Culture got the habits, the behaviors, and the values of the people. Now, one challenge we got pulling HB back is we have failed to distinguish a cultural practice and a cultural principle. Take a note, a cultural practice and a cultural principle. Okay? Let me give you an example. K'ng'etich is a cultural principle, but the practice has hardly changed. Defenders of the family by being good fighters. Now we are in 2025. Do we still need fighters of that type? So, big up Nairobi, I've modified it. Because they are trying to, the key practice now is because that is the defense. The defense of the community now is educated people. And we have modified it to suit. And it's still slow, but we are modifying it faster. Now, our culture must change. The culture, big up college, the principles, we must list them and then say, do we still need to practice cooking or kewal, the culture? The practice must change faster. The principle remains the same. So the cultures must change. For example, another one is language. We are losing our language so fast. We are not the only ones. But ours, they America, also go America, lagin in America. What are we going to do to save our language? Because if we go like the way we are doing now, by 2050, half of us will not know what our language is. So what are we going to do? By the time we probably will know nusu-nusu. Okay? You know, in Nairobi, Sheng came because it's Swahili English. So it became a language. Now they have another one called Shamateng. Okay? Now by 2050, most likely even Bukusu will have come closer this way, probably Samburu closer. So those Kugurene, whatever language. Okay? Language is dynamic anyway. Even justice. Look at how the Rwandese defended themselves. They said, to try these people to give a genocide, if we use the Western model, it was going to take years, and it was not going to resolve the problem. So they revived their cultural arbitration system called Kashasha. Kashasha went much faster than even what the UN thought, and it resolved the problem. Now the country is at peace because they adopted a cultural practice, okay, and modified it to suit a situation. So the principle moved with the practice. Engine which looks at these things so that the mindset of our people moves in tandem with the intention of the government. Right now there is a mismatch because when the country is moving much faster. The next one is security. I know Governor Gele made that problem. Around Baringo, Elgeo Marakwet, West Pogot, Wengalek. Now, the Rwandese, we need to adopt their model, Nyumba Kumi. I know Nyumba Kumi is there, but it is not working the way the Rwandese one works. We need to adopt their model and actually the 10 houses. But in the Kibbutz model, in Israel, they have a Nyumba Kumi, but actually more than 10 houses. It's almost 100 houses. It's exactly the same, and any visitor that comes, for how long? We must secure, because security is a prerequisite for investment to come. The Israelis are 7 million, those who are in Israel, including the Arabs. The neighbors go 120 million, the neighbors. They have tried to destroy that country and it was impossible. Iran, pop, and it couldn't respond. Just imagine how secure that country is, and they can provoke their neighbors. We need to do the same. A secure county, plus our neighbors, that drives prosperity. Number 6, next slide, is community engagement. Now, kigenet chito, kigenet picture to be totally dependent on government. What is government? Government is a facilitator. Government is an enabler. Government is a supporter. The primary driver, pastor. Lakini gigitibitele, oh, serikali, saidia, serikali. Everything. We have to change the mindset of our people. Where I do my things, Aribekanyu, and government will just come and assist me. So, in Rwanda, they have some Negure Umuganda. Now, Umuganda is once Saturday every month, the last Saturday of every month, the country stops. And every citizen volunteers. to do community work. Every citizen. So the Nyumba Kumi decides. Now they are prescribed what happens in every household. Kota gatol gige prescribe ngela. Nen lazima kumigoi. Number one, kota apko batet. Lazima. Maami kota apsuswa. Number two, every house must have a toilet. Now, Governor, defecation statistics you was in Gishu, how many households want the toilet? See, we don't have. But if we make it a law, it has to be made law. So that do chame muchege kapka the community. Lagi ni murenne ni muchege last mo take up church. Toilet. Okay? Every household in Rwanda kutinye gabunguit. Every house kutinye gabunguit. For kitchen garden by law. Because magumeje yala tingwek and you can produce it. You have the energy. And then the most interesting one is every citizen must wear shoes. Last my like we own it. By law. So, kira a government nagago prescribe to the citizen what needs to be done, and if you don't do it, okay, so how do you use your time? How do you use your time? So, we must create an Umuganda of some sort, okay, where every citizen must contribute, okay? Now, there's something I borrowed from Japan. You know, Japan, after the Second World War, was devastated. Of course, you are aware of, they were the first country to be hit with an atomic bomb, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So, they said, we are now abandoning war and we want to go to quality things. Today, anything made in Japan, automatically in your mind, quality. China is coming close. Now, they went through a quality movement. That quality movement was from a guy, Nugure Ian Deming. So, Ian Deming went to Japan as an American to create a quality movement. Connect peak the importance of quality. So the day we go manufacturing, deal. Last magnet pigo the importance of quality. Now, the importance of quality, keta nega nyumbani. You can't go to a factory to produce quality if you can't. It's a culture. So last magnet picture through a quality movement. And that is what the Americans taught the Japanese. Kotosindan the Japanese, the Americans in quality. So therefore, as we invite investors, medita picture, kijana ni jazz batarno yote, chabo tivet. Last magwa genet nga what quality is. Okay? So there are 5 things in the Japanese by the Americans, and we have to figure out in Uasin Gishu how we are going to do this. The first one is how to sort things. It looks very simple. If I come to the office, the county government, will I find a well-organized county office, sorted? Or if I come to your house, Will I find a house in the Pastarabu? Because the men at Vegan Starabunga, when they go to work for somebody else, they don't have the culture. That's where the Chinese beat everybody. They had to do a cultural revolution at home so that when the American investors came, they had a worker, and culturally fitting into what the Americans want. And that is why the Americans went in large numbers to create jobs in China. So, is to sort, is to arrange, is to clean, is to maintain, and continuous learning. That was the quality movement in Japan. The rest of Asia adopted it. Saigu Chumbek. So we need to create a quality movement as a culture. Then we will move. Then we will attract investors. Finally, a few other thoughts. 5 thoughts. The first thought is, in future, the number 1 resource in Kenya, copy. So we must find everything possible to harvest water, to store water, to whatever it takes. Okay? Climate change has favored us. Our rainfall is higher. So how do we store that water? So LASMA was in Gishu to protect itself in future from any war, of any fight. Because that fight in Migiri Valley, 2 things. Kuparchinige pay, agiparchinige nyas. There's nothing else. We could import the same problem if we don't conserve water. So we need to figure out. I got ngaleja for tomorrow. Have an interest, because that forest will be a gem in tomorrow. Okay? And how do we distribute that water to every household? Pay will be a critical thing for the future of our county. Number 2 is energy of young people. My proposal is to do what the Israelis do. It's also done in Germany. It's also done in South Korea, which is national service for 2 years. Lagok Tugul Chitare Form 4 are enrolled to do government projects on a voluntary basis, kigo an allowance, for 2 years. Ngumongu jito, kugago machuan, agago responsible, agago taretemet. If you don't engage them from Form 4, pogayaji wirgi, wabayeg, kopet, wega menace. Amago employable even to even an investor who deal with a manufacturing capacity. Because so he can't work in a drug factory because he'll be like, you're smelling alcohol. This is precision factory. So we must engage young people when they are. It could be even us, we could even say 3 years. But we must engage young people. So quick disciplined. Okay? Moi had the idea, but it was poorly executed. Those of you pre-university, it was too small, it was too short, it was only 3 months, and the curriculum was very poorly structured. But he had the idea. The recommendation actually is 2 or 3 years of engaging young people to do national work. Quick discipline, then by the time they enter a TVET or a university or whatever they are trying to do, the mindset is changed. Number 3 is we must then engage our people where they pay tax. Those who are not able to pay cash, they pay tax in time and energy. Let me explain. The people who pay tax on the KRA register got 3.2 million. Yet we are 56 million thereabout. Those on KRA register got 3.2. So 3.2 million people are supporting the rest of the population. Now, Chijotagumi village, and he expects SHA to work. He wants a road. He wants everything to be supported, yet he has not contributed a single cent himself. My proposal, now County Assembly, MCS Mskiza, is we must pass a bill where every citizen, and we can create a time, must contribute a certain number of hours per month to national service. So what are they going to do? So the chief or the ward administrator, it doesn't matter who, will keep a register of the school. Okay, Ngele, let's take the school I know, Sergoit Primary. Okay, so even the Sergoit Primary, the parents contribute, say, 20 hours per month. Each parent, Agmi a register. The headmaster details what needs to be done. Okay? So the children come to school, the parents come. If my job, for example, is to make sure that the windows are cleaned, or my job is to make sure that grass is planted in the playing field. Because in the playing fields, all these schools, 90% kuchangarawe, agumi wasasi chiechanga. You can't have it, no. So the parents must be told, akwejo golo suswe jata, agotile suswe to a certain standard, maagenet quality, to a certain standard, so cheza nyalago. Then the same children now will enjoy the playing fields, and so they become wall runners. Agage the register how many hours they have worked. If it is a hospital, for example, a clinic, okay, the community, in the village, then Chibiosok will be told, okay, you manage the home largely, or go to 10 hours every month. So your job is to clean the hospital because you benefit from the same hospital. Okay, you clean, and that is your contribution in lieu of cash. We will unleash the energy of our people, and the quality movement will continue. So it's an extension of Umuganda. So we are not creative. So we can't have just 3 million people bebering. In Uasin Gishu, I don't know how many taxpayers are there. Let's suppose there are 100,000. 100,000 is now supporting around 1.2 million people. Will they support 6 million people by 2050? They can't. So everyone must contribute tax in cash, in time, or using your energy. In that way, we create a fair tax system. We have had a lot of arguments with Kipto over it, and he is figuring out how that will be implemented. But, new thinking. And then finally, we need the support of the county governments and the county assemblies. The county government and the county assemblies must now embrace creative destruction. Let's abandon the old, let us bring the new in a very creative way, because that is, if you look at Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore, the core of what he did was creative destruction. And I'll just give you one final example of what they did in Singapore. At Singapore, so you see they are a route. They are the sea route as you go to China. So you pass to, it's called Malacca Strait. Then you pass through Singapore as you then go to Indonesia, Philippines, Japan. All the ships pass through there. So they said these ships must refuel. But they don't have oil. So they have no oil. So they said, why can't we create a refinery then? We refine it and then they refuel. Because a lot of exchange was happening at their seaport. Today, Singapore has the 4th largest oil refinery in the world. 4th, without any crude oil of their own. They are just resellers. Now, look at Kenya. 40% of our import bill, 40% is fuel. Okay? But that fuel, a lot of it is reshipped to Uganda, Eastern Congo, South Sudan, and Rwanda. But some of it even reaches Burundi. Kasinda na create a refinery. Feed it. We don't have to have our own oil. Uganda now has oil, and then it decided to detour the oil pipeline to Tanga. Why don't we capture that thing in Tanga? Okay, have the same fuel, we have refined it for you. That is the mindset that we must have. With this kind of mindset, I guarantee you, by 2050, between 2050 and 2100, we will have achieved our target, which is our county should be among the counties in Kenya, Chigugure developed. Kongoi missing. Thank you.
Makofi mazuri na tusimame kidogo jamani, makofi mazuri. Thank you so much. Asante. Tupige makofi mpaka aketi. Very powerful message. Thank you so much, Daktari Julius Kipng'etich.